Hi friends, today I'm going to be talking about something a little bit different. I've asked a couple of my sound healing clients for their permission to share stories about some cool happenings and healing experiences in sound healing, and I wanted to share them with you all. So for anyone who doesn't know, I'm also a sound healing practitioner. I use tuning forks. I was trained through Biofield Tuning by Eileen McCusick. There's specific frequencies that our bodies respond to. It's absolutely worth a deep delve if you're interested in that kind of thing. But ultimately, I work around the biofield, which we've normally called the aura up until now, but now it's kind of like creeping into the world of science finally, and well, Western science, and being understood better through electromagnetism and the way that everything has frequency and therefore has light and color and sound. It's all a spectrum of vibration. So our human bodies, of course, exist within this spectrum, and so do our experiences. So if we experience things like trauma and grief, sometimes those things are too difficult for us to release emotionally, and we end up holding on to them in the form of stuck waveforms in our biofield. And so when I use a tuning fork and comb through the biofield, it quite literally releases these things, which well, when we have stuck experiences in our biofield, there's also biophotons in like a tangle of waveforms. So light particles are out off of our bodies instead of in our central channel where they should be. And so it's kind of like having your phone open with way too many apps running. It's like, it's not an efficient use of energy. We want to have all of our light and all of our beingness within our core. There's so much about the core and health. You know, some people believe that your degree of health relates to the health of your spine. A lot of people just, the focus on breathing, that process of really existing and following the consciousness following the breath with your consciousness down through the core. There's a lot to that. So as far as information about why sound healing works, there's like a lot that I could say. There's a lot I could say about what specific things go on in the body, like where we store different emotions, the reason we are light beings and how we naturally resonate with the sun from our heads, and we naturally resonate with the earth at our feet. And so those are two things that we're kind of always plugged into, and intentionally plugging into it by getting a lot of sunlight and putting your bare feet on the ground really allow the battery of your body to be charged and alive and firing at a higher capacity. So yeah, hopefully that's a decent enough introduction of why we are light beings and why we have light bodies. And on to sharing some stories about healing events. So I recently had a massage client come in and have a lot of stuck energy in her chest, her neck, and her head, and she was having chronic migraines. She was seeing doctors about her lungs. She wasn't able to breathe into her lungs fully. When she did, it would cause her a lot of anxiety. And when I worked on her in a massage, I was working on like the vertebrae in her neck and different things, and nothing seemed to respond as if it were like a physical issue. For example, if someone has twisted their neck from sleeping wrong, I can feel in their neck what's going on in their neck and kind of slowly allow it to align itself again, like just tracing the intelligence of the body, which is another story for another day. But when folks' bodies do not respond as if originated as a physical ailment, then that's my cue that there's something else going on. It could be an emotional problem, but I always recommend people come in for sound healing sessions whenever that's the case. So she came in for a sound healing session, and to make a long story short, it was a really, really intense session. When I'm in these sound healing sessions, I'm not a highly psychic person. Maybe I should stop saying that, but let's just say when I step into sound healing sessions, my intuition just suddenly expands. It's like there's a body of intelligence in the entity itself of biofield tuning that I'm almost like stepping into and just accessing so much information that I normally don't have access to. So I get a lot of intuitive messages, and then after the sessions are over, I only vaguely remember it, kind of like if I were dreaming. But during her session, I remember being drawn specifically to a construct which we all carry in our bodies, on either side of our bodies, 10 inches off either side. The left side is the mother's ancestral information. It's called the ancestral river. The right side is the father's lineage. And if I'm drawn to work off of that part of the biofield, then we're doing some kind of ancestral healing. So you could be doing something such as healing your relationship with an ancestor, or you could literally be just kind of embodying some kind of trauma that an ancestor of yours was unable to release in their lifetime that needs to be rectified. And for whatever reason, you have been chosen and it's manifesting through you in your body. These are things that we are starting to understand. The Body Keeps the Score is a really good book that shares one story after another of people having these bizarre physical and emotional health problems that directly correlate to traumas of their ancestors. So, you know, I'm happy to say that it's finally starting to make its way into what we're researching and our understanding of the body. The term is epigenetics, so that's a nice thing to Google as well. So in this woman's session, I'm working on her mother's lineage off of the left side of the body. I believe I was working off of her heart chakra in the ancestral river, and sort of started getting an image in my head. Well, not sort of, but in one moment, a flash, I saw someone grab someone else's neck and stick their head underwater and kind of smash their head against a rock and then drown them until they died. So I got this image in my head, and I'm striking my tuning fork and I'm just creating healing sound. It was the 174 hertz tuning fork within this region of her biofield. And my client is laying on the table and beginning to experience the emotions and sensations of what I saw. So she started feeling really scared. She started feeling a lot of pain, and she started to feel like she was coughing. She was coughing a lot on the table. She said it felt like she was dying and that she was blacking out, and it looked like she was moving towards the light and experiencing a traumatic death. And so as a practitioner, I understand enough to know that she's not dying and she's not drowning, but we're releasing a traumatic event. So I supported her in the best way that I could, kept her grounded, and of course continued striking my tuning fork and moving through this trauma, allowing this ultimately really discoherent frequency that has been affecting her quality of life since she was a young girl, that is stuck in her field, to be harmonized, because that's what frequencies do. They harmonize themselves against coherent sound. So she was experiencing all of this, and after a while it finally released, and I received a message that we needed to honor the ancestor. So when I said, okay, this was someone who passed away in your lineage and they were never given a proper burial, which is very crucial for our souls and spirits to pass to just be honored, to be remembered, not to be killed through a method of hatred, like an act of hatred. That is very difficult for the soul to experience, and it dishonors the soul. So we together acknowledged the ancestor and that we were honoring them. And in that moment, that caused my client to weep a lot, like cry so much, because clearly it was something in the heart that was just needed. They needed to be seen. They needed to be acknowledged, recognized for this scary thing that they had to go through. And so after that session finally closed, I closed it out. I, ended up closing her energy field and followed the proper protocol. And we had to sit down for a while afterwards because it was just a really disorienting experience. That was one of the more intense sessions that I've had, so we had some tea and talked. And I found out that she has a daughter who, at the age of 2, would not take a bath to save her life. She would be screaming like she was dying taking this bath. And she has women like her mom and aunt who are terrified of swimming. Like, they don't like to go swimming. So, those are things that validate what my intuition told me, which was that her ancestor was murdered through drowning. Even though no one in her family really specifically knew about that story. And after her session, she reported that she no longer needed to see doctors anymore. They all kind of were like, whatever was happening, your tests are perfect now. It was like she could breathe deeply into her lungs. She said that was one of the best feelings she'd ever had. This woman was in her 40s, and she had never breathed into her lungs since she was a child. And yeah, just the headaches went away, pretty much. It's kind of like when you have a rubber band on your wrist and you sleep overnight. It's like, it doesn't go away immediately when you take off the rubber band because there's still the imprint. But with time, it continues to improve for about a month or 2. And I asked her permission to share this story with everyone. She said yes. She wants more people to know about the possibilities of healing through sound, and that sometimes we're carrying things that are ancestral that we don't even know about. Yeah, so that's kind of one of the more exciting and dramatic stories from a sound healing session. But just before this, because I'm in between clients right now, I was doing a little bit of energetic cleansing on myself. I like to maintain energetic hygiene, if you will, because I touch people and work on their energy fields all the time. And I've been having lower back pain. And so I worked on the back of my root chakra. And just now when I was working on it, I just started feeling tingling in my legs, and it took me about 25 minutes, and then my back pain pretty much completely dissolved. And I had a lot of kind of movement in my digestion happening, bubbles and lots of opening, and it felt really calming and nice in that region. So sometimes it's not as intense. It's we just need help with our digestion issues or our sense of belonging or anything, what have you. I've really done such a huge range of stuff with my tuning forks. My ex-boyfriend was a quadriplegic, and he had lost a lot of sensation in his lower half of his body. And he wasn't that into the tuning fork stuff, so I never did a session on him in his biofield, but he would let me actually strike the tuning forks and use the weighted forks and just place them on his body. And he regained a lot of sensation and even movement, a little bit of movement in his legs all the way down to his toes. He was able to move his toes. But then we broke up, so I can't say what would have happened if I continued working on him. I've worked on a lot of lineage people. For some reason, ancestor people come find me. Well, not for some reason, it's because had to do a lot of ancestral healing on my own lineages, and I'm really passionate about that subject and about the process of dying and the process of honoring the dead after they die. That's something I'm really drawn to, and I feel I'm here in part to kind of shine a light on, because that's not something that we are currently in Western society doing a very good job of honoring. And a lot of the tradition and sacredness around that has been lost because of colonization. So I've done a lot of lineage healing on people. I have experienced a session where I was working on the very outer edge of someone's biofield, which represents their past lives. And that woman was, I also had gotten her permission. She was like, she had felt a lot of pain against an attack on her feminine energy, which we all experience because we live in a patriarchy. But she had many lifetimes, she believed, of having given away her power, probably sexual assault and things like that. So she was wanting to close that loop in this lifetime. And we actually found that there was an entity that was attached to her when I was working right on that outer edge of her field. So kind of like even still attached to her in past lives, if you will. You know, time is a construct, so it's not always going to make sense in a black and white way. But that was a session where we had to banish this dark being that was kind of like sucking her life force energy and attached to her sacred feminine, which is where we create from. It's a creative force. And across the world, that's a big issue right now anyway, because that's one of the ways that, if you ask my opinion, that patriarchy is like the more socially acceptable way of saying it, and it's like the three-dimensional way of saying it. But it definitely seems like there's beings who are preying on feminine energy because it's so like lush and it has so much to offer and it's life-giving and it's a creative force. And so we cleared something and detached it from pulling on her sacred feminine energy in past lives, and it was like a really, really intense session. We had to kind of like chant and like repeatedly, her and I together were saying like it was not welcome here anymore, or some phrase that she and I agreed that we would repeat as I'm striking the tuning fork and working in this area of the body where somehow it was lodged to her. So sound healing is something that we understand pretty well. And there's a lot of science and math that points to why it works. You know, we need to all know that there's most likely a fourth and fifth state of matter, plasma and ether, and that is ultimately the explanation for why everything is connected. Everything is connected through waveforms. But then at the same time, sound healing sessions really still touch on stuff that we don't understand. So it's kind of like a really cool space to exist in, where it's like, all right, well, we kind of get what's going on here, and it's valid enough that it's starting to grab some traction and people are starting to take it seriously, and there's research and peer-reviewed articles passing. So hopefully one day we can allow it to be covered by insurance and more widely accepted as a pathway for healing. I definitely think we're on the path for that, but at the same time, I think we just need to reclaim our sense of sacredness and our sense of mystery, because if you know anything about space, you know that there's mystery in the universe. You know that there's more than what we can understand. So we shouldn't be afraid or steer away from things just because we don't fully understand them, especially when we see time and time again that it dramatically improves people's quality of life. It improves their relationship to their bodies. It improves their emotional health. It's all connected. It's all frequency. So I'm really happy that they all gave me permission to share that. And if anyone has questions, such as maybe other stuff you want me to go deeper into about sound healing, then I can do that. There's a lot more stories than I could share, but I just only wanted to share the ones, obviously, of people who gave consent to let me share their stories. So I hope that someone found this interesting and that someone found this encouraging, because I do believe healing is possible. I think it's your birthright. I think as human beings, we are perfectly designed, and the environment around us, Earth, is symbiotic to us. There's really so many reasons that we should be healthy, and I think there's a lot of really poor misinformation about medicine and health that is keeping us bogged down and really not healthy. And that really pisses me off, because it's just, we want to live. That's really what it comes down to. I'm passionate about living abundantly and enjoying life to the fullest, and that's pretty difficult to access if you are in chronic pain or you are chronically fatigued, etc., etc., etc. So please consider the fact that it's very possible to heal. Healing is your birthright. It's really how you're hardwired. If you're experiencing illness of any kind, mental or physical, then that is something that doesn't belong in your body. And if you've been given a diagnosis that something is permanent, I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to tell you otherwise, but I think that it's at least worth exploring options to see what can be done to at least improve it. All right, I hope this video finds everyone well. I don't mean to offend anyone, by the way, because I know that talking about our bodies and our diagnoses gets extremely personal. And if that diagnosis has empowered you in ways, then, you know, to each their own. But me personally, I challenge thinking within myself no matter what. So just because someone has told you that you have a thing, I just like to encourage people to question it. Just question everything. Yeah, that's about it. Have a good one, y'all.